Good afternoon, class. Well, I wanted to go over in this week's video, first of all, just some areas of your first discussion boards where we could see some improvement. Okay? First thing is please make sure the best way to get the best possible grade, and that's what I want you to do, is to answer each part of the question with all of the important information for each one of the parts of that question. And so make sure you do that, okay? The other thing is make sure that in your original posts, when you post 2 questions, right, make sure that you have 5 citations. And then also for your replies, make sure that you have 2 citations per replies. Now, one of the issues that really kind of was really prominent in this discussion board was really just the proper citation of footnotes. Folks, I don't want parenthetical notes. I don't want bibliography for this. I just want footnote citations, and I'd like to see you start doing those properly. Now, the best way to do that is simply go to the Liberty School Divinity writing manual, and there are tremendous examples right there that will help you understand not only the kind of source you're citing, but how to cite it properly. For example, with the Black and Beck Rethinking the Synoptic Problem, you can't cite that just as Black and Beck is the author, because inside each chapter is written by a different author. And so what you need to do is have the author of the article or the chapter, their name first, then the title of the chapter in parentheses, and then editors Black and Beck of Rethinking the Synoptic Problem, and so on. So take a look at that particular citation form. Also with the replies, what we're looking for in the replies is just really, we want to see each of you make a contribution to each other's learning. So, offer different perspectives that were found in the book or in other sources, or maybe, give a different perspective. However, always cite evidence. That's what we're looking for, so you contribute to the learning. And make sure that as you look over your discussion boards, look at the grading rubric, because I give comments in there. Other thing is just simply proofread your work. A lot of misspelled words, a lot of improper use of capitalization, that type of thing. And that can be easily avoided if you just proofread. So just go ahead and do that. Also, I want to encourage you to avoid internet sources. They are notoriously difficult to cite. And by and large, many of the sites that people use are not scholarly. And so I would just prefer you didn't use any internet sources. Now, if you have to use one, just make sure it's written by a reputable scholar, and you have to include the name and the page numbers in the citations. Also, the Bible is not one of your citations. It's not considered a scholarly source. And so how you cite the Bible is, if you're going to use it, you can use it obviously in the discussion board or the replies, but that would go in a parenthetical reference. For example, 1 Peter 3:10, and that's it, in parentheses, inside the period. So the Bible citations are always parenthetical, but everything else must be done in a footnote. Now, and that pretty much sums it up. So I really, please, for your sake and for mine, for that matter, read over that Liberty School of Divinity writing manual. It'll help you tremendously. And so I'm looking forward to some great progress and improvement over the weeks, and that's the key. Show improvement. Now, I'm fairly lenient and liberal in my grading. And so, especially with form issues, because I want to give you a couple weeks to get it under your belt. But by week 3 or 4, we need to have all of those forms down pat. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Now, this week, wow. Okay, you've got your first quiz, and the quizzes have notoriously been quite difficult for many of the students. Now, this first one, students normally do pretty well. So make sure that you study hard the readings over the past couple of weeks and do as good as you can on the quiz. Now, what I would suggest is, as you read, you highlight and go back and review those highlights, because obviously it is an open book quiz. And so even if you don't know the answer to the question, you might know where you can find it really quickly, and that would always be very, very helpful. So carve out some time, study. The quiz is due by Sunday at 11:59 Eastern Standard Time, and so make sure you get that done. Also, this week's discussion board, um, you only have really 3 questions, and so you have to pick 2 of those, all right, and answer each part of the question. Following the instructions, obviously. The first really has to do with the various quests for the historical Jesus. Now, this is one of the more difficult, or may I say complex, detail-oriented questions that you will have all semester, all term. And so if you're going to tackle this one, I'd encourage you to do so, but make sure you describe each quest in detail. Give me the representative figures for each of those quests, and how it began and how it ended. So make sure you do that, and then answer every other part of the question. Now the next one really is just really criteria for. You'll see it in there. This is the criteria, basic criteria, and there's 4 criteria, and it's a straightforward question. Listen, list and define the criteria thoroughly. If you do that and answer the other parts of the question, you're going to get a good grade. Okay, it's really straightforward. Now, the last question has to do with the dates of Jesus' birth, his ministry, and his death and resurrection. Now, students, they think this is an easy question. It's not, because you have to not only establish the dates, but you need to make sure that you give the evidence for how we establish all of those dates, and make sure you include all the outside sources and biblical sources that help us come up with these dates. Okay, that's really important. And then answer that important part about the genealogy. I want the theological significance of the genealogy. Okay, and there's a lot in there about that, so make sure you check out your book. Now, again, listen, start doing the research for your paper. It's going to be here before you know it. Also, listen, if you have any questions, just simply shoot me an email. I will get back to you as soon as possible. All right, guys, off to a good start. Okay, so let's keep rocking and rolling. And make sure you review some of the policies in the syllabus and the other things that are important for the course. But all right, guys, hope you have a great week.